TheFrXion here, Tag12, having you call me, I don't really care. Welcome back to World of Tanks related content. Today we're taking a look at the LATTA Stridsfordon. This is a tier 9 Swedish tank destroyer that will probably come in as a reward or a premium vehicle in the near future. As always, the characteristics are not final and everything can still be subject to change in the near future, since this is currently on the super test server. So you're going to have at least 120mm gun on this tank, considering the alpha damage, 420 on both the APCR shells, which are standard, and the heat shells, which are the premium shells, and 530 HP that you can deal damage with the high explosive shell. But it only sports 60mm of penetration. Sadly, that's the norm for Swedish vehicles. They don't have a lot of vehicles that do a lot of damage with the high explosive shells, and yeah, sadly that's just the case. 290mm of APCR penetration, that is really good at tier 9. You're not going to be facing too many issues going through most of the tanks, even at tier 10 with that APCR shell. 330 with heat shells, which is only a step up by 40mm, but 330 is still a nice amount of penetration to have, especially on a tier 9 vehicle. The reload time is, without the siege mode, 12 seconds, with the siege mode 8.5 seconds, so you reduce the reload quite a bit. Aim time is also better in the siege mode. I mean, it's a norm. We all know how the siege mode works. So 3 seconds without it, 2 seconds with it. And the dispersion at 100 meters is actually quite bad in my opinion. 0.4 without the siege mode. Now I'd expected it to be better. It is better, but it's only 0.35, which is still kind of inaccurate for a Swedish tank destroyer, in my opinion. But it could be because of the gun, because it's a larger caliber. But you can improve it with the right equipment, and I would probably suggest you to improve that characteristics, because you want to be accurate with your Swedish tank destroyers. Now the gun elevation angle is minus 10 degrees in depression, 12 degrees in gun elevation. Just as most Swedish tanks, they have a problem with gun elevation, because you cannot elevate your vehicle high enough, because you have to use the hydropneumatic suspension to raise the tank to be able to shoot upwards. You actually have a gun traverse speed, so you can actually swivel your gun, I think, a little bit, because it's 16 degrees per second. And the turret traverse angle, I'm not sure, I'm not entirely sure if this tank has a turret, but it could be that the gun is mounted and it's considered to be a little turret, and it can go down minus 4 degrees. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll have to see when the vehicle comes out. Mobility-wise, the vehicle's quite fast, 60 kph going forward, 40 in reverse. Now that's obviously if you're not running in a siege mode. In a siege mode, you're limited to 20 kph in reverse and going forward. Now it only has a 380 horsepower engine, and since you still have specific power to weight ratio of 19, the vehicle must be light, because, you know, 19 horsepower per ton with only 380 horsepower means the vehicle is really light. So that means it's going to be really easy to ram it if you're in a heavy tank. Hull's traverse speed is 50 degrees per second, which is great. Turret traverse speed is 16 degrees per second, as we mentioned, but I'm not entirely sure what they're considering to be a turret on this vehicle. I don't see a turret, and I don't think you can actually turn the gun too much to the left or to the right. Hull pitch forward 4 or 5 degrees, okay, yeah. And switching to siege mode is going to be 2 seconds, and if you're getting out of siege mode to travel mode, it's only 1.3. So that's what we know from the tier 8, at least, and I think the tier 9 as well. Survivability-wise, this tank, sadly, is not going to be at the top of your list. 1,600 hit points. For TD, I think that's about the average at tier 9. And you only have 40mm of frontal armor, 20 on the side and 20 at the back. So it's going to be very much like the Udes 3, because that thing doesn't have any armor and it can be overmatched very easily. But if you are on a ridge line where it just lines up perfectly with the ground, you might just be able to bounce some shells. I'm not sure if there's a cupola like on the Udes where you can hit it and you can still penetrate the tank. But yeah, 40mm, that's not going to cut it most of the time. Turret armor, we can basically ignore that because it doesn't really have a real turret, but it's 10 millimeters all around. View range wise, it's pretty blind. It's blind is about 360 meters. That's all it gets. And basically, what you're ending up with is you're getting a tier 9 UDIS 3 at like tier 9, and you have a bigger caliber gun. But other than that, like most of the things are just not that much better. But you still have a pretty good reload time, and I expect you have a pretty good DPM because of that. Because in the siege mode you have great penetration. If you can get the accuracy up and increase the accuracy, this might be a pretty good sniper if you're far away. This is obviously not going to be a frontline vehicle, but considering the penetration, if this is a premium tank, this might be a really good cash cow, especially for the tank destroyer enjoyers, because we don't have any tier 9 premium tank destroyers yet. Either way, hope you guys did enjoy. Tell me what you think of the LATTA Stridsfordon. I personally think, well, we don't need any more Swedish TDs, but if they have it in their game files, it doesn't look very, like, extremely broken. It looks pretty decent if you know what you're doing with the Swedish tank destroyers. I think you can work with it. And yeah, at least it's not the Soviet tier 9 light tank, the 62 something something. Well, I'll see you guys on the next video. Until then, have a good one.